The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Good evening and welcome to my State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. The question of mail ballots has been, well, a turbulent one. The issue is driven by President Trump as part of what he forecast to be a fraudulent outcome, perhaps, in the general election. Of course, here in Rhode Island, we have a different kind of system than he is concerned about. Tonight, we'll talk about it with the Secretary of State, who has taken the initiative to create a mail ballot application process a little more aggressive than normal for reasons of COVID. First, before we introduce the Secretary of State, let's bring on the background from 12 News.
Keep an eye out for an important piece of mail coming in the next few days. Registered voters can decide if they want to apply for a mail ballot in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic.
Spreading out the participation in the election is how we're going to be able to keep voters and election officials healthy this election cycle at the same time as we protect people's constitutional right to vote.
Applications will be sent to voters who have not already submitted applications for a mail ballot. The Secretary of State says to help local board of canvassers process the requests, the National Guard will help, but no member will handle the actual mail ballots, only the applications.
The Guard will only be opening the envelopes, unfolding the paper, putting it into piles that are sorted by city and town, and that's it.
The deadline to submit a mail ballot application is October 13th.
You can either put it in the mailbox with the postage prepaid envelope, or you can put it in one of the many drop boxes that the Board of Elections is installing all over the state.
40 additional drop boxes are being stationed in cities and towns. Now, if you receive an application that is meant for someone who no longer lives at that residence, the Secretary of State is asking you to return it to help maintain an accurate voter list.
And with no further ado, our Secretary of State, our Nellie, as we like to say, something tells me we'll see that campaign again, one way or the other. Secretary of State, great to have you. Thanks for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday. We're going to talk about the mail ballot situation, but before we get started, A, welcome, and B, as a working mom, how are you doing with COVID and the kids and getting them to school and all that kind of stuff?
Thanks, Dan, for having me in. In midst of all of the election stuff and the business stuff that's going on in the world and the economy, those of us who are working parents are having, a challenging time. Overall, I have to say, I think that the hardest sector to be in right now is not politics, is not, the executive branch of government. It's actually being in the schools. Because teachers, education, administrators, the people over at Rhode, I know that everybody's coming into this with the best of intentions, the teachers' unions, but it's just really, it's a completely different world. And, I have 3 girls, different ages. I have a 5th grader, a 9th grader, a 12th grader. Some days they're in person, sometimes they're online. You have to remember which start time is when. If you're going online, the kid doesn't have to get up as early as if you're driving them to school, and so that all factors in. And it's but everybody's giving it their best, and we just have to give each other a little bit of patience and work with each other. I found overall, but my heart goes out to those teachers in the classroom.
Yeah.
It's really, really challenging.
I kind of feel like the clock is ticking. I'd like to be bullish on all of this, but we'll see. Did your gut tell you anything about this?
No, but my friends who are doctors say that, this is a new normal for a little while, and it's not just till the end of the year. In my own office, we just made adjustments where we got rid of a conference table because we're not gonna be using the conference table for meetings right now. So let's bring some more people into the office, socially distant, by using the conference room table space.
Yeah.
It's going to be that way.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. All right, so I have in my hand my mail ballot application. I've got my little note from you on the entire thing, and I think
the wraparound, show the wraparound. The wraparound is so that we worked really, there you go.
yes.
Oh no, that's I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the ballot wraparound, but okay, fine. That was good too.
All I know is that there's 2 pieces of paper, and
Yep.
what's interesting about this mail ballot application is that it is the standard form. It's got question, you've got incapacitation, you've got I'm confined in a home, you've got I'm in the service, or hey, by the way, I'm just not going to be around, which is really is like the fourth option that's always been in place with the application for a mail ballot. I'm glad that you wrote this, which is the explanation that says, hey, by the way, COVID, just check box 4. I mean, that's really that, COVID worry, just check box 4. I mean, that's what you're doing here. Go ahead and tell me what your thinking is in general about the mail ballot application process this time around.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that letter and how you like that part where we explain about, COVID is box 4 is the direct result of debriefing on the June 2nd process and the September process. That was a really common question. We would get them mostly from some of our senior voters would call and say, but I can go to the polling location, because the way the legal language is framed on the application is very specific. And we're like, no, but if you feel like you need to stay home because of COVID and you don't want to expose yourself, then that's what you would check off. So we tried to, again, we learn from each process, and we've improved one, with every iteration. So, those people who think the government never improves, that was one of the improvements we made. So the mail ballot applications, which by the way, need to get in to us by October 13th, we need to make sure that, everybody who wants to vote from home does so by October 13th. So far we've gotten about 30,000 mail ballots requested, and we have this small unit of National Guards men and women who are opening those 30,000 mail ballot applications and sorting them into piles, and then my staff is scanning them, and then the cities and towns are receiving the scanned applications, verifying the information, particularly those signatures. They're verifying that against their records. And basically either accepting the mail ballot application and telling us, go ahead and send a mail ballot, or saying, you know what, we need to double check, the signature's not clear, it's not matching, we're going to contact that voter. Which is one of the reasons why we've been stressing to everybody, whether you're going to vote from home or do early in-person voting, do it early. Don't wait till the last minute, because it just helps us in case there's any sort of questions along the way.
Yeah, I understand from an administrative point of view that suggestion. At the same time, American tendency is a last minute decision sometimes at game day, right? Election day. I'm not saying that's the case now. We are so partisan and divided across the board on the presidential race that I doubt there's many more than 10% of the population right now, by the way, where the election probably hangs in the balance across the country. But I have long wondered what people are thinking when they go to the ballot, standing in line with people who have questions about bond issues, and of course that's off the table this time, which is weird, and we'll talk about that in a second. Just this notion of hurry up and get your paperwork in and get your ballot in is really counterintuitive to the culture of American voting, and certainly Southern New England voting in my experience. So I don't know how we're going to reconcile those two things, but then again, hey, it's COVID, and we've got to change the way we do business on so many levels, right?
Well, and that's it, right? It's COVID, right? And my primary responsibility as Secretary of State is to make sure that nobody has to choose between their health and their constitutional right to vote. As you said, there's large portions of the voting population that's already decided. So for those people who've already decided, try to get it in early. If you want to wrestle with, your ballot and really think about it, then you can take longer. We're not saying you have to do this. We're giving voters options to vote from home early in person or on November 3rd, because that's what they want to do. Whenever I run into somebody who says, is adamant about, I'm not going to do mail ballots, I'm like, that's great. You have two other options. If you want to go on election day and say, I voted on November 3rd, then that's your right. And we are providing ways for you to do that. The Board of Elections and the local boards of canvassers have worked really hard to make that option safe as well.
When we come back, we're going to talk about that person who comes up to you and says, I don't want to do the mail ballots. It's really fascinating what the tone from Washington has done to build this bias for mail balloting. The Secretary of State is with us, and we shall return. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back with Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea. Secretary, you mentioned something about the occasional person who comes up to you and says, I'm not doing that mail ballot. I've never had a philosophical problem with mail ballots. They just seem to be, a tool in case you can't get to the polls for whatever personal or professional reason. But Donald Trump has made this whole thing the devil's work. It's going to be fraud, and it really has affected the way people see the mail ballot. People have a visceral reaction to the concept. It's crazy.
So, yeah, no, it is, especially for someone who himself is using a mail ballot. So that's what's really amazing about it, right? So he's dissing the system that he's using. And I don't know how you reconcile that yourself. I'm here to tell you that, mail ballots, as you well said, are not a new phenomenon in Rhode Island. There are a number of protections and checks and balances that absolutely keep integrity in the system. This is not anything other than a regular election process that we're now providing in a more proactive way because of the COVID pandemic, and trying to keep people safe all at the same time, giving them the right to vote. And by the way, since our last segment, I got a text in between in the break, and I know I had said 30,000. Nope, we're up to 60,000 people in Rhode Island applying for mail ballots. So to give you a sense of this, out of the 120,000 that applied for mail ballots in the out of the 120,000 people who voted in the June 2nd presidential primary, 100,000 did so by mail. So we're already in the first few days of getting mail ballot applications back, and we're seeing real robust demand here in Rhode Island. And I think that speaks to the fact that Rhode Islanders understand that despite what is being said in the cable news networks and sort of across the country, they can trust their Rhode Island election systems.
Let's remember what Donald Trump's qualm is. His qualm is what he would call unsolicited mail ballots. Mail ballots being unsolicitedly delivered, meaning states like Oregon have been just sending out to registered voters their ballots for a long time. I mean, those haven't shown
Washington. There's 5 states in the country that send out mail ballots already. Like, you're a registered voter, there's an election, boom, you get mailed a ballot to your house. Right. And people love it there.
Yeah, some never, and like in Oregon, they don't even have a poll option. They don't show up at the polls. The whole thing is. But his argument is an interesting one. The diligence that these states have done, we've never seen any kind of mail ballot fraud percolating, and they have their own domain and way of doing business protocols. Ours, though, just for everybody's clarification, isn't what he's complaining about. You are sending applications first.
That's correct.
He's good with so he's good with Nelly Gorbea's plan, because you're sending applications first, and then people have got to respond with the application. So,
yeah, no, and let me just say, for the record, I mean, even in those states where he's supposedly having these issues, they elect both Republicans and Democrats. So it's not like vote by mail is a partisan tool. My colleagues in Washington and Oregon, the secretaries of state there, are elected, and they're both Republican. So again, this is all a lot of smoke and haze, and really reprehensible, because the integrity of elections and our trust in the election systems is absolutely critical to having the country move forward after every election cycle. But yes, we are sending out mail ballot applications, and the voter has to sign, and that signature is verified by a local election official. The ballot is then sent to that voter. Then there's a second signature that the voter has to provide with the ballot on the oath envelope, and that's verified by the state board of elections, different group of people. So we have checks and balances all throughout the process to make sure that the people who are voting are the people who should be voting.
When we come back, the legislature here has not been in lockstep with the Secretary of State on this process. We'll work that out when we return in our final segment with Nelly Gorbea. Stay with us. Welcome back to our final segment with Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea. There's still rumblings at the General Assembly that what you've done is entirely too entrepreneurial, that taking advantage of your authority is something that the General Assembly should have already authorized by law. By the way, the General Assembly is just a rumor at this juncture anyway. We have a one-person government right now for the most part, in Gina Raimondo. This executive authority has gone way too long for my liking. By the way, I didn't intend to step you into this one, but you're probably going to run for governor someday anyway. So what's your take on that, real quick? Do you feel the same way, that it's time for the General Assembly to start acting like a legislature again?
I think that, we do have a system of checks and balances that are provided by the three branches of government, and it is important for them to be able to participate and be active. That's what the voters have provided. So, I have been able to do my job, as Secretary of State, thankfully, because of a lot of the measures that we had already put into place. So by the time COVID hit, we already had online voter registration. We had automated voter registration. We had new voting machines. We had a lot of the systems in place that allowed us to pivot very quickly to be able to provide that safe and secure election.
All right. Excellent maneuver right there. That was very good. You don't want any part of my theories on the emergency order, and I understand that. But someday, should you succeed in what might be your political ambition, I'll be coming down on you. If God forbid, we ever have a pandemic like this again, we need more cooks in the kitchen. We just need more cooks in the kitchen, and I think it's wearing thin right now. Anyway. Your move on this mail ballot application seems to cross a hair on the legislature's. They're not happy with this. The intent is fine. Her authority has been exceeded. Have we worked this thing out, or are we going to see some last minute stuff?
No, I think there's a misunderstanding, I think, about what the authority is. I have federal monies to deal with the election and COVID. And basically sending out a mail ballot application is like sending a piece of mail to any and every voter. I don't need legal authorization to mail the voters. I need to have the money in place, right? So we're using existing federal dollars that were allocated for that purpose. And that's really all we're doing. Very different than had I decided to do something like send a ballot or things like that. So I think, and it's been incredibly well received. Look, we already have 60,000 Rhode Island voters that have said, thank you, I would like to vote from home.
The rub here is you've had this mail ballot application online and accessible the entire way. The only action that is different is that you are unsolicitedly sending that application to the registered voters.
Yep.
And that's where some folks say, shouldn't have done that, needed legislation to do so. Are we expecting any last minute? Listen, I just got my application. If I send it in, I'm going to get my ballot. So I don't know, other than talk, I don't know what the General Assembly could do to stop this process that is going as we speak. Is there any fly in the ointment we're unaware of?
No, I don't think so. At this point, I think, in fact, for the primary where I didn't send a mail ballot application at that point, there are several candidates who actually did it district-wide themselves, right? So, but no, what's really important is, look, there's a lot of interest in this election. Sorry?
not to interrupt, I'm sorry, but that's legal to do. Somebody, yes.
Anybody can send the mail ballot applications around. The only thing is that we have a process in law by which we distribute the ballots. That's key. So, but the mail ballot applications are absolutely available to the public, as you said, online. In my office, sent them out to everybody. During this pandemic, there's a lot going on in people's lives. It's a little bit disorienting. You and I just talked about at the beginning about, the kids and how every day is different because these hybrid models and some are online. And you might lose track of, I need to download this mail ballot. Not everybody has a printer at home. And so my job as your Secretary of State is to safeguard your constitutional right to express yourself about your government. And that is what you do when you vote. And so that's what we're doing here.
We'll leave it there. We'll keep in touch with you on both platforms, on the TV and the radio, as we go through this process. Madam Secretary of State, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, a final word and we can back. Stay with us. So the mail ballot application process has begun here in Rhode Island. You simply have to return these forms by October 13th if you want your ballot to be cast via the mail. Your option, pass or play. Remember, you could always do the old-fashioned thing, wearing your mask, showing up on Election Day. Have a great night. See you on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRO, and back here tomorrow night. Good night.